For 25 years, the late Dan Stimson served the College of William & Mary as its director of cross-country and track and field. Stimson was not only an absolute success for the school's athletic triumphs, but also a beloved mentor that crafted a generation of up-and-coming coaches in the sport, leaving a lasting legacy that will continue for decades. His collegiate story starts at Ohio University, where he was a team captain. Stimson was the winner of 2 Mid-American Conference crowns in the shot put. After a graduate assistant stint at Tennessee, he fine-tuned his coaching approach as an assistant during a 9-year stay at Miami University of Ohio. Stimson then was brought back to Tennessee by Hall of Fame coach Stan Huntsman. By his mid-30s, Stimson established himself as one of the top assistants and recruiters in the country. In his 4 years with the Vols, the program won 11 titles in the SEC, while finishing in the national top 10 in 7 seasons. Those credentials lured William & Mary to recruit Stimson for its top job. Stimson may have been a thrower at his core and was well adept at coaching his event area brethren, but he was also extremely successful at directing cross-country success. Remarkably, the men's cross-country team qualified for the NCAA National Championships on 14 occasions in a 17-year stretch. The men and women's cross-country teams combined for 35 CAA conference crowns. His program won another 14 conference titles in track and field. That's 49 league crowns out of 100 opportunities. Described as having an unyielding faith in his assistants, Stimson coached the coach, preparing his assistants for the next step and recommending their hire to prominent openings around the country. Among his protégés are Michigan State Director Walt Drenth, current George Mason Director Andrew Gerard, as well as Harvard's Alex Gibby and Kathy Newberry, among others. But Stimson is best remembered for his larger-than-life personality, a jovial sort that ultimately cared more about the future of his student-athletes' careers and their families than the trophies won. His former athletes and assistants attest that the secret to their success was driven by that approach. Stimson passed away in 2017 and is survived by his wife of 46 years, Rosemary, his 2 children, Claire and Krista, and 3 grandchildren. Dan Stimson, Coaches Hall of Fame inductee into the class of 2019.
Stop here and I'll give you your medal, okay? Here we go. Big congratulations, okay? Thank you.
Well, I'm Rosemary Stimson. My claim to fame was my marriage to Dan. Here we go. And opposites attracted. I was an art teacher, but after listening to thousands of calls, recruiting calls, going to hundreds of track meets in this country and abroad, I have gotten to know a lot of wonderful students, athletes, and coaches and alums who have made the world a better place. And being from historic Williamsburg, or living there for the last 33 years, I've got to go through the history of this. They made me do it, and so now you're stuck listening. But I'll promise to keep it under 5 minutes, okay? And I first of all would like to thank the United States Track and Field Cross Country Association for inducting my husband into the Hall of Fame. I feel somewhat like a dinosaur now, coming out of the snowbanks of western New York State. Dan came from a time when cinder tracks, waiting for results, and little scientific knowledge of coaching. I met Dan in kindergarten, and as I said, opposites attracted. I was always the smallest in the class, and Dan was the biggest. I was the littlest angel in the Christmas program, and Dan was Santa Claus. At any rate, he kept up that persona for all of his life and made it a lot more fun for everybody. When we started dating at 15, our classmates called us Gronk and Chad. two Neanderthal TV characters from way back when. We didn't really appreciate how accurate that description was until many years later when our daughter became a geneticist for the CDC and she tracked our DNA, which gave us a pretty high percentage of actual Neanderthal DNA. So his family tree had an Irish king and a Revolutionary War captain in it, and it was determined that he would be a coach before he was ever born. Unfortunately, his gene pool also included a handicapping and deadly blood clotting disorder. World War II had prevented his dad from becoming a college coach, and because he was off to Guam, so Dan had to fulfill his father's dreams. It wasn't easy, but Dan always said, we both won the lottery with the parent lottery. Our parents were loving and supportive and challenging. And next to honesty, the work ethic was paramount. Dan worked on farms before he was 10 years old. We both were recruited by Stan Huntsman at Ohio University. I got an academic scholarship, Dan got a track scholarship. Stan's influence was profound throughout our lives. We followed him to the great state of Tennessee. When Tennessee got second in the nationals in the NCAAs to Alabama, who was later disqualified. After going broke as graduate assistant at UT, he had a quick stint at a high school coaching outside DC. He got a call from Chuck Zodi at Miami University, who became another great influence on Dan's career. When at Miami, we met George and Una Ryder, probably one of the greatest coaches this country has ever had. They founded Miami University's Cradle of Coaches. Honesty, integrity, scholarship, and total development of mind, body, soul, and the historic fight against racism. Those became the guiding principles of my husband's coaching. All of these coaches and teams refused to succumb to the racism prevalent at the time. They boycotted white-only establishment, sometimes meaning that they had to eat peanut butter sandwich and sleep in bathtubs in rodent-infested dorms on trips. They worked for affirmative action, first for blacks and then for women. Dan was part of the early movement for the development of Title IX and volunteer coached women at UT. There, he helped his friend, a young Pat Head Summit, put her basketball team on a strengthening and conditioning program early in her career. Relationships were always paramount for Dan. Oh, he loved winning, but only if it involved the total development of the athlete. He hated drugs, cheating, and dishonesty. His work ethic and being in season year-round for 30-some years did take a toll on his health and his family. Yet, he was proud of his daughter, a PhD geneticist, and his son, an honors graduate of Old Dominion. He also always favored the scholar-athlete, which culminated in his association with William and Mary. He was thrilled to have Alex Haycock as one of his former throwers become the next director of track, and his greatest hope was that the track program would continue to thrive. I would like to thank you all for this honor, and I made it.
Right here. Let's turn around. Dan's name's on the front. Let's get a picture here.